Right, we'll go ahead and start. There we go. Well, old machine. Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the executive team meeting. So I hear a motion to approve from Scott. Do I hear a second to approve the agenda? Thank you. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, I'll say aye to approve the agenda this morning.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the agenda is approved. So first point of order is the board governance committee discussion. So I wanted to speak just a moment about something that I had spoken a little bit offline with Jim about my concern about a member on the committee, not particularly just them being a member on the governance committee, but some work that they're doing outside of the committee. And so you all are aware that there is a new organization that's been formed, a new nonprofit, the Community School Boards of Oregon. If you've read their material, you know, they are obviously speaking to a different a concerned group in our state that may have may not believe that we are providing services directly for them. And so my concern is there is someone who is in leadership on the organization that is a member of our governance committee. So I just wanted to have a discussion to get your thoughts. I have some general concerns about that. The governance committee meets a couple times a year. I feel that it could potentially be a conflict. I feel like that the organization has some great they have some great ideas, but I think they also could be considered in direct conflict or in competition with OSBA. So that is a concern for me to have someone on the governance committee that may be either collecting information on what we're doing and sharing that with their organization. So I just have some general concerns and wanted to open the floor to have a discussion about that. They are on the governance committee and that their term ends at the end of 2024. So it's Gary Richardson, who did provide some great conversation in our last governance committee meeting earlier in the year. However, with the formation of this group, I do feel it could be a potential conflict. So wanted to open the floor for comments or questions. Chris, I see your hand was raised.
I guess my question is what is his leadership role in the new organization?
So he's listed on the website as his secretary treasurer, I believe. He's like a founding member of the organization.
Okay. Okay.
They are a 501c4. And Jim did share in his update of a while back a link to the website and their information. It's so yeah, he is part of the leadership.
I looked at that website and there is not much there. It is very, very sketchy, bare bones. There's not much.
So Chris, the only way you'd know he's an officer is if you went to the Secretary of State's website and looked at their organizational documents. He is listed as the 501c4's organizational secretary treasurer. It's not listed on their website. They have not listed anything related to governance, their governance structure, their dues, or their dues structure. So I had spoken with Sonia yesterday while we were at the conference, indicating I would call Tim Sweeney, who is the superintendent where Gary's on the board member, and try to ascertain from Tim, you know, how involved is he, what's he doing, and see if, you know, I'm saying it may, I don't know. A lot of times when you're forming corporations, you know, you just find somebody who's willing to put their name on it. Now, it is not a good lens for him to be on our governance committee and do that. But, you know, if you look on the Secretary of State's website, the registered agent for the corporation is Tyler Smith, who is the attorney that advised Newberg in the whole debacle that happened in Newberg. So I was going to reach out to Tim Sweeney either later today or tomorrow to check on what does he believe Gary's involvement to be, and then if I have to, reach out to Gary and report back to you all.
I guess my concern, I talked with him at the last OSBA and didn't really know who he was, but I had a conversation with him, and my concern is that I guess I do have a concern in that it doesn't seem like a person can be functionally effective being a full participant in the two different organizations because they really are at odds with one another. I mean, that organization was formed to basically be an alternative to OSBA and to be a departure. So I don't see how someone can really participate in both. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Chris. Oh, Scott, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Sonia. I guess, Jim, one point of clarification, if I remember right, the attorney Smith, his wife serves on the Canby School Board or has previously, if I recall correctly. Okay, thank you. And then two, I guess following that logic, I'm the one that solicited Gary's involvement with the governance committee, and Gary and I have a good rapport, so I'd be comfortable pending direction from Jim and Sonia to reach out to Gary via email as well. So I guess just, Madam Chair, depending on your direction, I'd be glad to engage with Gary as well and just maybe make a gentle inquiry. But I'll sit tight until I get direction from you or Jim, and we can discuss later when we're in Salt Lake on that
Okay.
strategy.
I would
Yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah.
One thing, Chris Cronin, you mentioned, two organizations. We have at the national level states that are in both organizations, both NSBA and I can't remember what we call the other group now. And actually,
COSBA.
Thank you, Sammy. And we have a gentleman who serves on the NSBA board and actually on the NSBA executive committee, Matt, and they're in both organizations. Michigan is in both. So it's a very similar circumstance, but I think maybe letting us feel out with Tim and maybe perhaps individually with Gary to see what his involvement is and what level. But I share Sonia's concern. I will say that.
Yeah. So something I did want to highlight, I didn't know if anyone else had a comment. They have listed their short-term goals on the website for the new organization. The fourth goal, which caused my concern, it says that CSBO will investigate all pertinent information from ODE and OSBA on a regular basis and communicate to our members so that they are aware of key items which may impact our districts. We will also monitor local, state, and federal educational influences. So it sounds like that one of their goals is to investigate our activities and report to their membership, which, I think we do a pretty good job of sharing what we do as an organization. So that just concerns me. So, and I'm not comfortable with it. So any other Sammy, comments or questions?
Yeah, I think we're on the right step of actually getting to know from the source what their intentions are, what their actions are. Definitely on the face value, this is bad when someone signs up for, and I don't know the gentleman, but when someone signs up on the Articles of Incorporation, and one of the stated goals is to investigate a nonprofit that they are not only a member of, but in a leadership committee of, that reports to the board. There is, in my interpretation, there is an actual conflict of interest between the goals of the organization that they're incorporating, whether willingly or unwillingly, that has the interest of oversight and investigation of the organization, having a privileged access in a governance committee. And honestly, maybe they might have a conflict of what's their duty here, giving the governance committee the best advice, or getting to know from the governance committee about their actions, to report that to the nonprofit. So there is really clear tension here between the two priorities in their two memberships, and we need to really have clarity on it. I think they're. I'm sharing here in confidence. We need in our association of understanding of what's going on and understand what's their involvement and what's their intentions really are, and hear it straight from them. The next step, I don't know what is the next step, but we might need to consider that the bylaws are silent on the discontinuation of a membership of a member of a committee, not of a board. So since the bylaws are silent on it, and maybe this is too early to discuss right now, just want us to put that in the back of our minds that might entail a conversation with the individual that might resolve this conflict rather than having a swift action. But and my gut feeling tells me a swift action is really necessary for the governance committee to do its duty efficiently, effectively, and without interference from a nonprofit that claims that our actions needs investigation along with ODE.
Yeah, thank you, Sammy. I appreciate your comments. Okay, so I'll just wait until I hear from Jim, but I will hopefully have something to report back, and Scott will certainly have you in part of any conversations we may have. But Jim, I would like to be part of that discussion if you are reaching out to him directly. So, okay, all right. So we'll move on. There are no other comments on that item. So we'll move to succession planning subcommittee report. So I'll hand it over to Sammy and Chris for that.
Thanks. Chris, if you want to fill in any gaps, and maybe we'll hand it over to Mary to go over a document we wanted to share. So the overall overview, there's a discussion on succession planning in terms of what processes and procedures we want to guide future executive committees and boards to follow or to consider. High level, but also as descriptive as possible, but not as restricting as possible as well, to give them direction on how to navigate times where succession is needed for on the ED executive director level when and if that happens. So on that regard, there was a discussion on 3 dimensions on how that will be impacted. One of them is we were going to discuss with you and share with you today, and other dimensions are going to be shared with you later on. The dimension we want to share with you today is high-level guidance for the executive committee, for the presidents, and for the board of directors of OSBA on how to move forward when and if a vacancy might happen. There might be some follow-up steps to that we are referring to in another document that is still being vetted, and we're still discussing how much of detail should we go, and whether legal counsel is necessary to answer some complex questions there. So we're not going to address those, but you will see a reference to a document that is still work in progress. With that, I want to hand it over to you, Chris, if there's anything else you want to add. And you're muted.
I was muted. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think that we actually have some decisions that we're asking the executive committee to make, that we felt that they needed to be addressed and considered by the committee as a whole. And so I don't know if we want to turn it over to Mary to do that, or if you want to handle that, Sammy.
Now, Mary, you can take it over.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I think the discussion item that we wanted to talk about this morning has to do with, hang on, I'm not allowed to share my screen, so I can't bring this up. But I did email it to you. And essentially, as Sammy said, it is a high-level outline of what the board, or most of the executive committee, would put in place when they are hiring a new CEO. The discussion that we wanted to bring to you is, should the executive committee set the makeup of the search committee in this process? In other words, would you be more comfortable if it's spelled out for whomever this process would be in place for, that the search committee might have 2 executive committee members, 4 board members, outside community partners, a at-large board member? That's the
Mary,
we were hoping to get from you today. The rest of it, I think we will give you time to read the whole document and then provide feedback to either Sammy or Chris or myself. So go ahead, Sammy. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, I interrupted you. Sorry, but I just want to make sure you do have now the co-host capability. So maybe your sharing capability is activated now if you want to do that.
And can I give just a little background on this particular item? So just to bring everybody up to speed. So what we would anticipate if we have to do a full search, executive search for a director, we would hire a search committee to assist with that. Part of that process would include, a search firm, a professional search firm. Then a search committee is established that actually takes the responsibility of reviewing applicants, determining finalists, doing the interviews and all of that. What we're asking you to consider is whether we would have specific named people or positions, I should say, not people, but positions that we would want to designate now as being part of that search committee? Or do we want to leave it open to whatever executive board is in place at the next time that we need to search for an executive director to determine who would be on that search committee? Do we want to be specific and say, 5 OSBA board members, 3 staff members, 2 members of the public, a member of ODE, a representative from the, I don't know, Board of Education, whatever do we want to be that specific, or do we want to leave it open? And we don't know. I was on a search committee, and the requirements for a higher ed president are very specific about who you're supposed to include in the search. We just don't know. We can do it the way we think is best for our organization.
Great. So this is great information. Scott, you have a question?
Yeah, maybe just more comment, Madam President.
Okay.
Yeah, just again, was clarifying 6B, and I appreciate being able to share a screen and review that. I guess, Chris, to your comment, I think it's going to be a little nuanced. I'm supportive of having some specificity to the OSBA board members, and maybe the outline, we'll continue to use Gary Richardson as an example of grants past. And I'll just say, despite some of the rumblings on the succession committee, or the prior conversation on the governance committee, he did provide really valuable input during our governance committee conversations. And I can't say enough that I think that ensuring that there's transparency to the process just outside of the OSBA board hopefully quells some of these outside parties and thoughts. And sorry, Jim, knowing that you're jumping on another meeting, appreciate your time this morning. We can discuss further, but my thought would be
Thanks,
being
Jim.
nuanced, providing clarity to the OSBA board members and sort of the outside board members, but I don't know if we want to name outside partners, using ODE or COSA, et cetera, as an example of that. But that's just my 2 cents. So
Yeah.
specificity around OSBA board members, fellow board member committee members, similar to Gary Richardson on the governance committee, but maybe not getting as specific on some of the outside partners in there. Because what if, for instance, we name the OAESD, ED, and he or she is not available? So I think that's my 2 cents for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Any other questions or comments? I think it's as much as we can plan and pre-plan and have a framework, the better. And I agree with Scott, maybe perhaps having maybe a more general term, like having 2 stakeholders, like listing them as a stakeholder. And then at that time, you could determine who those members would be as part of the search committee. But I like the idea of having the framework as much pre-planned in advance as possible. So having the number of board members or the number of executive committee members, I think that that's great. And what I'm seeing here looks really, really well planned out. So. Yeah, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. All right. Thanks for the report. Did you guys have anything else to add? Mary.
Sorry, I can't remember how to raise my hand in Zoom, so.
It's okay.
No comments needed, yeah. I just wanted to add to what Sammy was sharing and let you know that I will rework this wording, run it past Chris and Sammy, and then we will get it out to the entire exec committee for a review. And so we're not asking you to do any reviewing at this point. So, but the next process we're working on is on an acting ED and an interim ED. And that is the one where I'm going to be working with legal counsel. And so that one will be forthcoming. And hopefully that's the last process we'll have for you to look at.
Okay, great, thank you.
If you don't need me anymore, I will go ahead and excuse myself.
Yeah, I
more-
think one more question from Scott. Go ahead.
It's more of clarification. I guess I just was gonna say, I appreciate your involvement, Mary, and I aspire to get to the point in time in my life when I forget how to use the buttons on Zoom. So,
Sorry.
thanks,
I'm
Mary.
looking
Enjoy
all
your day.
over. I can't figure it out. So it is a pleasure to see you all, and we will talk soon, I'm sure.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Mary.
Mary.
Take care.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Mary.
All right, thank you, Succession Plan Committee. Good report. Appreciate your work. All right, so we'll move on. So we'll have to move on from item C. We'll just skip over that and follow up. I don't think we have anyone else that can share that information. I did speak with Jim a little bit, but we'll all be in Utah together. So hopefully we'll just look at an update there. So we'll move on to item D, August special board meeting agenda. That information is in your packet. We have 3 positions that we will be appointing. And so it looks like there's 2 contestant races and 1 that is not. So we'll have those 3 positions filled at our upcoming special meeting in September. So August, excuse me. So any questions or comments on that? Scott?
Yeah, and as I shared with you, Madam President, I unfortunately have a work conflict that day, so I will be unable to participate in that special board meeting.
Okay, yeah, that's noted. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so no comments or questions on that. We'll move to item E, our September board retreat meeting agenda. That is also in your packet. So we'll have reports from the caucus, from the and then we'll have information on the rural advisory as well. And so there's a lot of things there in our packet. So just wanted to open the floor and see if anyone had questions or comments about the meeting or about the agenda that we have planned. So I'm looking through here. Scott, go ahead. Your hand's
And
raised.
again, Madam President, I apologize. I am dropping my daughter off for college that weekend. So I believe I had shared that with you and Jim, but just again, because I know the next agenda item, F, here I am missing 2 consecutive meetings in a row. So I just wanted to be thoughtful and just say is I've up until recently, I've never missed an OSBA board meeting in 8 years, and here I am missing 2 consecutive. So plus summer boards due to work conflict. So work has been kicking my butt this summer, and I apologize for that.
Well, Scott, I think it's really poor planning on your part to have students graduating when you have such important responsibilities with that.
Yeah,
Should have thought of that 18 years ago.
yeah, exactly. I should have.
Yeah,
But, it's just paying me, right? Like, and I'll just say this is a vital role, and so I just apologize for the conflicts. But it's no comments around the agenda.
Okay.
I think that the September one to me is one of my favorites, right? We're together. It's the goal setting, it's the visioning, it's where we're going, but also an acknowledgement of where we've been. And I think with the elections as well, I think the September board meetings are always, I think, the most crucial. And I apologize immensely for having the conflict.
Yeah, well, you'll certainly be missed. I do enjoy these, and I'm excited about our venue on the Hood River. So looking forward to that. It's a nice space, and then having the 2 days, and it's nice. We'll have a break. We'll have time for dinner to share and connect with each other. And so we'll have a meeting on Friday, and then we'll have a break for dinner and a reception. And then Saturday, we'll have the elections, and then we'll also have some other training that will happen later during the weekend. So looking forward to that time with everyone. I did have a general question for Scott and for Emily, since you've been working, and Chris as well, since you've been working on the rural advisory. And I know that we have space for reports from the caucus, and we also have the LGBT LGBTQ plus. They'll be providing a report as well, but we don't have scheduled a time for them to provide more information. And I wanted to find out how many times you reported on the work of the rural caucus or rural advisory before you were voted as an advisory council. I know that whenever you're like in the exploratory phase, how many times did you guys report to the board before we did a vote to become advisory? Because I'm trying to recall, see if we can have some kind of alignment with that.
So, Madam President, if I'm
Uh-huh.
following your question right, your question was, had any preliminary information been presented to the full board prior to the asking the board's
Right.
vote for support?
Right.
No, we had discussed, so you're gonna test my short-term memory here. So I presented at our April board meeting down in Eugene, so I kind of remember the venue. So
April.
we had LPC, and then we had this breakout board meeting that weekend as well.
Okay.
I had presented, I believe, and I know we're obviously with Linnell and Jane's passing of the baton, I believe that we had presented at the January board meeting, sort of the engagement I had from multiple outside parties. So I guess
Okay.
just kind of, if I may, I'll just kind of run.
It was a follow-up to the fall regionals.
Yeah, so I had multiple discussions kind of throughout fall regional at convention, et cetera, leading up to
Got it.
some of those dialogues. And then I'll be honest, I had probably weekly phone calls with a half dozen board members, predominantly from the Southwest and Eastern Oregon parts of the state. I had also gone before the Molalla River Board meeting, and fielded a host of questions, sort of, and I'll just say a general lack of concern, or I guess a concern about the lack of attention from OSBA and OSBA representing rural districts and rural communities. And have been the impetus for that discussion. And so
Okay.
during the course of January, February, we had met, I think we discussed as an executive committee, sort of the impetus for that. And then I believe I'd shared it with the board prior to, at least in one occasion, prior to coming to the full board in April. But I don't have all those records in front of me. If that addresses
Okay.
your question. Cindy.
That does. That's exactly. I was struggling with how to frame the question, but yeah, I wanted to, and I think it sounds like what I'm trying to plan is maybe speaking one-on-one with board members that as they read the report and we convene, or maybe spending some time talking with board members, kind of getting a pulse on their thoughts on what they've read and the advice, as we're doing that exploratory work, if they have questions or concerns, just talking with them, getting a pulse, and then looking at a time, planning a time that I feel is appropriate to share like that full presentation to the board, and then eventually having a vote on whether we could create an advisory committee for the LGBTQ plus. So yeah, that did answer my question. So I appreciate the context, and sorry about challenging short-term memory. I'm struggling with mine too. I couldn't remember. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's all blurry.
it's all blurry, all the Zoom meetings and okay. Well, great. So any questions about the board retreat? I'm looking forward to seeing, I think, is everyone else going to be able to attend? Chris, you'll be there, right? Emily, you'll be able to be there? Okay. And Emily, you have a question?
Yeah,
Or comment?
I did look through the agenda, but now I can't remember. We have that on the agenda as a voting item for the OSBA board to bring it as a resolution toward the membership, right?
We do. Yes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, looking forward to that. Great. Okay, well, we'll move on to with no other questions to item F, Board of Directors meeting attendance. So I have made some headway and spoken to a few more board members, discussing concerns about attendance and just asking them to kind of look at their calendars and prioritize when they can attending, knowing that things come up and work capacity, work-life balance is always a challenge. And so I think I've made some headway, and I've asked Chris to also help me with that effort. And I know she'll be assisting me reaching out to another board member to share those concerns and just kind of check in with folks, see how they're doing, seeing if they do have capacity to continue to participate, or if they're finding lots of conflicts with our schedule. So I just appreciate helping with that. Anyone else have any questions or thoughts on board meeting attendance? I think that I did see some more folks attend after that first initial letter to the board. So I think that's a movement in the right direction. I'm hoping that that just continues. One thing I will planning on doing is making sure that we have the calendar. We'll be sharing that with our newly appointed here board members so that they also can make plans to make sure that's on their calendar and make the plans for the next year to make the prioritized attendance at these meetings. It's really important. So any questions, comments regarding attendance? So okay, seeing none. We'll move on to item G, which is a board self-evaluation tool. This is also another thing that I think that Jim was going to speak to. And I'm not sure, I couldn't remember the date that is going to go out shortly here to board members. So we'll have some time to review those results and then discuss those later in the year. So we'll probably table that for our check-in here in Utah to talk a little bit more about that. So, but any questions or comments on the evaluation tool? No one? Okay. All right. Well, I think that we'll give you guys 30 minutes back this morning, and we'll touch base in Utah and cover the other items we were able to talk about this morning. So, oh, what's that, Sammy?
Before
yeah.
we adjourn, I just want to remind us all, check in an email from Linda Hanks, and the title of the email is in the chat.
Yeah.
She offered us an opportunity to sit in on a choir practice for America's Choir. I forgot their name, but they seem to be pretty interesting and good choir to listen to. So they're asking for an RSVP, and I think you're all copied on it. So I signed up, and it would be great to go there.
The
Yeah,
Mormon Tabernacle Choir, right? Yeah.
Yes.
They're famous. Yeah.
I had an opportunity when I was in high school to listen to them, and it was absolutely an amazing experience because it's huge choir and just incredibly disciplined. So it's really a great opportunity if they could set that up. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I hope the rest of you can do it too.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity. I tried to do that before when I went and wasn't able to see them. So what a great opportunity for us. Well, great. Well, I look forward to seeing you all, except for Scott. Your best wishes and your work and stuff. We'll see you next time around.
Well, I will be, I will be at summer leadership. So
Oh, that's right. You are coming. Okay.
So, but I had already, and I'll just share it, I confirmed with Jane, I had already scheduled my flight for Saturday afternoon prior to them adjusting it. So I still fly out Saturday afternoon. So I have to leave early afternoon Saturday, but I will be there through Thursday through Saturday.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I did the same thing. I think I was talking to Emily. I adjusted because I fly in and out of Redmond as often as I can, and the flight schedule there is very limited. And so when I first looked, I thought I was only gonna miss an hour or two of the bit, and now I'm gonna miss, a lot more because I'm flying out Saturday morning. So it just, unfortunately, it's
Yeah.
See you Thursday.
yeah.
All right. Well, have a great afternoon, everybody. Safe travel. See you all in Utah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you there.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.